All right, y'all, today we are going to review what is called distributive property. And believe it or not, you've actually learned about distributive property all the way back in elementary school when we talked about something what was called area models. And I'll review what that is in just a little bit. So you are going to be able today to use distributive property to simplify algebraic expressions. Remember, we simplify or evaluate expressions and we solve equations. So we want to make sure we have that vocabulary. So let's look and see how we can represent this. If we have this rectangle and it represents y, and we have just y, that means one y. So if there's nothing in front of that variable, that just means one of them. Then we have two y's, so 2 is my coefficient. So that's saying I have two y's. So in every situation, this rectangle represents a y. Well, in this situation, if I have 2y in my group, because my parentheses are grouping symbols, and I have a 3 on the outside, that means I have 3 groups, where in every group I have 2 y's. So 2 y's, 2 y's, and another group of 2 y's. And you can see that this is 2 y's here, 2 y's here, 2 y's here, for a total of 6 y's. So again, 2y in the grouping parentheses means that in every group I'm going to see 2 y's. The 3 on the outside means that I have 3 groups of those. And we can count 2, 4, 6. Well, what distributive property is, when you distribute something, that means you give that to it. So if you distribute out papers, that means you're passing papers out. If your teacher is distributing a grade, it's the grade that you're given. So what we're doing is we're giving this 3 to this 2. And hopefully you guys can see 3 times 2 is 6. So that's a little visual representation. Okay, so with distributive property, we're going to take this outside number and distribute it to what's in my grouping symbols. And we're going to use multiplication. All right, so let's review a few things right here. So when we have distributive property, we have this little visual to help you out. So in that first situation, we only had the 2 y's. But if we have a group with more than one thing, we're still going to distribute this outside number or letter, in this situation, to what's going on here. And I'm going to review with you those area models in case you forgot, and then show you how we can do that without those area models each time. So just in case you forgot, you're like, what does she keep saying area models for? When we were in elementary school, your elementary teacher might have shown you where you have a rectangle, and you break it up, and this outside number, 5, goes right here. And then this first part of the parentheses was 6, and then we have this letter F, that's going to be the second part. So what we're doing is we're breaking it up. So if we were to say, okay, I have 6 positives. This number 5 means I need that many groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in this part of my rectangle, I have the letter F, and I have 5 of those groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what we can do is count up how much total we have. Well, in this part of the rectangle, if I have 5 groups of 6, I could say 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, or just 5 times 6. And that means this is a value of 30. And then over here, we don't know what the F's are worth, if F is worth 3 or 8 or 2. We're not sure. So we just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 F's. So hopefully that kind of is refreshing your memory from way back in elementary school. Well, instead of having to draw this picture each time, we're taking this 5 and we're distributing to the 6. And we're taking this 5 and we're distributing to the F. So the 5 is going to be multiplied with the 6, and the 5 is going to be multiplied with F. So that outside number is distributed to every single part inside there. So I'm just color coding these over here with this part right there. So here's our process. Now for the math, we just multiply. Okay, So 5 times 6 is 30, and 5 times f is just 5f. That's the same thing here without drawing a picture. Okay? So I just wanted to review this with you to show you why this works. Let's try another one. So this 9 times 6. Okay? Again, if you need to draw this area model to help you out, we'll stop and think about it. If you had 6, because right here in my parentheses, I have 6 minus r. Here's another way to show you too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then remember that subtracting r minus a positive is the same thing as adding a negative, so we can think of a negative r. So some people see it this way. If I had this in my group, 6 positives and 1 negative r, I should have done these positives in green, since those were my numbers I was doing. I was doing blue for the first part of the parentheses, blue for the second part. Well, stop and think about it. If I have that as a group, and I draw it 9 times, right? That's 3 groups, 4 groups, and so on. If I were to keep drawing that 9 times, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all I'm doing is I'm drawing my group, because my parentheses symbols, sorry guys, my parentheses symbols are grouping symbols. So that's saying in every group I have 6 positives and a negative r. 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 If I draw that 9 times, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I draw it one more time. That takes a little bit of time to do, but you can visually see that those are my 9 groups. So I'm saying 9 times 6, because there's 6 positives in each group, and 9 times 6 would give me my value of my positives. But I also have 9 groups of the negative r. So instead of having to draw it each time or draw an area model, if you can understand that we're distributing this outside number to every part into parentheses, so 9 groups of 6 is 54. And if you were to sit here and count, you would count 54 positive signs. And 9 groups of negative r, well, a positive times a negative is a negative, and you just dig 9 times negative r is negative 9r. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing on today's assignment. So let's try the next couple of them without a picture. But if you need to pause the video, rewind it to remind yourself how to do an area model, or what I did over here, you can go ahead and do that. So let's try a couple more, and then reach out to your teacher, of course, as you need help. So we don't have to draw the pictures each time. That was just there to kind of refresh our memory. So this negative 2 is being distributed to negative 7f, and the negative 2 is also being distributed to negative 4. Like we've talked about in previous lessons, stop thinking about this as subtracting 4 and thinking about it as a negative 4, because subtracting 4 is the same thing as adding a negative 4. Remember, subtracting adds the opposite. So that way it helps us out. So negative 2 is what's being distributed, and the first part is to negative 7f, and the second part in those parentheses is minus 4. So if I said negative 2 times negative 7, well, a negative times a negative is a positive. So negative times negative is positive, and 2 times 7 is 14. And then I just bring my letter f down. Then right here, negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? So again, the reason why this part works, think about how we did over here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 negative r's. You could visually see that. So you just take your number and multiply it. Negative r is the same thing as saying negative 1r. So you just multiply those two numbers and then just bring that variable down. So you'll start getting the hang of it. Okay, let's keep going. So we want to try these and challenge these without pictures. So I'm going to do a couple more for you just to make sure that you're ready for your lesson. So 7 is the number being distributed, and the first part of that group is negative 6x. The 7 is also being distributed to that positive 9. What a common mistake is, a lot of students will distribute the outside number to the first part, but they forget that second one. Remember, this is what is in your group, negative 6x and 9 positives, and if you were to draw that 7 times, what would you visually see? Okay, so if you don't do that every time, you're going to fall for a trick answer, and we want to make sure that you are getting these all right. So 7 groups of negative 6x, 7 times a positive times a negative is a negative. 7 times 6 is 42, so it's a negative 42x. And then the 7 is being distributed to the 9, so 7 groups of 9, or 7 times 9, is 63. That's all we can do because we cannot combine x's with positives. We can't combine x with positives or integers, constants in this situation. So that's all we can do. That comes back to our combining like terms. Okay, so that's all we can do at that point. Let's try 2 more, just trying to get a couple different examples so that you're ready for your assignment. So negative 7 is being distributed to the m, and the negative 7 is the outside number being distributed to that positive 2. So this right here is what you start with. This is your process for your work, and then this is your final answer. So negative 7 times m is just negative 7m. Negative 7 distributed to positive 2, or negative 7 times positive 2. Negative times a positive is a negative, and then you do the math like normal. 7 times 2 is 14. So you could write negative 7m plus negative 14, or you might see it written this way, negative 7m minus 14. Those two mean the exact same thing. Remember, subtracting a positive is the same thing as adding a negative. Lots of things to review, so that's why I'm glad you're tuning in, making sure we understand this. Let's try one more. So 9 is my number distributed. So in my original group, I had 4 positives and a negative w. If I were to draw that 9 times, think about what you'd visually see. So 9 groups of 4 and 9 groups of negative w. So 9 groups of 4, or 9 times 4, is 36. And 9 groups of a negative w, if you were to see negative w 9 times, you see negative 9 w's. Again, we could write it this way, or 36 minus 9w. Okay, a couple different ways we could say that. You could actually also say negative 9w plus 36. All 3 of these mean the exact same way. So just be careful when if this is multiple choice and you're trying to get this. When it's fill in the blank, you have a little bit more free range. But just double check your work and make sure that it makes sense. As always, if you need to rewind this video, hear it again, maybe help draw with the pictures, check your work, please reach out to your teacher so we can help you when we want you to be successful on these assignments, okay? Because this is going to carry over not only into 8th grade, but into high school as well. As always, good luck, and let us know when you need help.